Thank you, thank you. Welcome to the program, everybody. Today we are talking about transformational learning. Learning that transforms how you view and make sense of the world around you. There's a lot of information about transformational learning, so we've invited two people today on our show who've actually experienced it. Prior to transformational learning, most learning is uncritically absorbed. In other words, one rarely questions what they learn from their teachers and parents and their community and cultures. Transformational learning happens when a person begins to question how they make sense of that knowledge in the world around them. It was believed at one time, in order for transformational learning to occur, 10 distinct steps a person would go through 10 distinct phases, and then a disorienting event was thought to trigger the transformation. We now know it can also be gradual and cumulative, developmental in process, brought on by questioning and reflecting on one's experiences, which either validate our beliefs and knowledge, or changes our perspectives. Meaningful dialogue and self-reflection are often key to transformational learning. As I mentioned, we have two guests, and today, the first one I'd like to introduce is Emily, a school teacher. You know how I love school teachers. Please welcome Emily.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for coming today.
My pleasure.
Listen, you told our producers that you've been a 7th grade math teacher for about 5 years. Is that true?
Yes, I'm in my 5th year now.
Wow. Teaching math at that age. It's a difficult subject at a difficult age.
Yeah, people always say that.
Do you think that you approach your class differently than you did 5 years ago when you first began?
I think I do, in some ways.
Has your teaching philosophy changed in any way? Do you remember where it initially came from and how, by experience, you may view it differently today?
Yes, one area that's changed is discipline. When I first started teaching, I was told by my student teacher and some of the, professors at college that I should be harsh on discipline, the silly don't smile till Christmas idea. And so my first year I was really careful about making sure I gave detentions for misbehavior and the actual consequences for things. But one particular event stands out in mind because I had a student who just had trouble. Some of his background, he was of low socioeconomic status, and he lived in a trailer park with his mom, single mother, and just a lot of different things going on in his personal life. But during class, it was sometimes disruptive or distracting behavior. It got in the way of others learning. And I don't even remember the actual event that brought me to this point, but I had to give him a detention one day. Something he did, and according to my policy, he got an after-school detention. And to give a detention, I had to call his mom to make sure that he would get transportation. So I called him over to my desk and had him use my phone to call her. And she began yelling at him so loudly that others nearby could hear her through the phone. And you could see his face was upset. And he was trying to explain what happened. And she hung up on him. And he had to hand the phone back to me and say, she hung up on me. And it just really stuck out because I care about the kids. I wasn't trying to put them on the spot or get them in trouble. And so it just really embarrassed me for him. And I felt like it was just wrong. It didn't need to happen that way. I didn't need for his feelings to get hurt or need him to be embarrassed in front of his peers.
So today you handle discipline differently.
Much differently. I mean, I definitely try to be fair, and I don't pick favorites or, base punishments based on how their home life is, but I especially take care to think about how I'm handling the situation or how I communicate with the parents and talking to them outside of the view of their peers and things like that, because that's not the point of, consequences.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing this experience of transformational learning with us. And be sure to have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Our next guest is a PhD candidate from Case Western University. Please join me in welcoming Mark. Hello, Mark. Thanks for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. I understand you already told our producers a little bit about your background, and I understand at one time you said you would never hurt another animal. And now I understand you actually do research on animals. Is that true?
Yes, that is correct.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that? How do you go from promising you'd never hurt another bee to now doing experiments on animals?
Yeah, well, it's a rather slow process. It isn't as it wasn't any single event that really changed the way I thought. But I've always been sort of a curious in mind, and I have a natural curiosity to dissect things and so forth. And so, really, my love for science and trying to figure out how things work is what led me down this path. And I needed to learn, unfortunately, that sometimes some morally questionable things must be done in order to answer some questions that may benefit the greater good of people. And really it comes down to, does the ends justify the means? And in many times in medical research, the only means to a cure for a disease, for example, is through animal research. And so that's something that I really had to come to terms with if I wanted to pursue my intellectual curiosity in the sciences.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I also find it interesting that you began as a computer programmer and now you research neuroscience. How does one go from computers to neuroscience?
Well, that is true. I was a computer programmer for a number of years before I got into the sciences. As a computer programmer, I would sit in a desk all day in front of a computer screen and type out code. And it wasn't a very fulfilling or exciting job. And so I went into something that would both fulfill me intellectually and had more of a human interaction. And research was a great opportunity for that because no research is done alone. You're always working in teams to accomplish a greater goal.
Okay, well, thanks so much for sharing 2 transformative learning experiences with us today. We really appreciate it. Bye, Mark. Wow, well, we learned a lot about transformational learning today. Emily, our school teacher, helped us learn that sometimes when you reflect on other people's feelings, so strong empathy can sometimes lead to transformational learning. It changed her entire way of disciplining students. And Mark had thought at one time he would never want to hurt any animals, but it turns out that he does have to sometimes hurt animals now. He actually paralyzes his rats for his study. But he knows that it's for the greater good and realizes the connection that we all have to one another. And the same with his story about moving from computer programming into neuroscience. He was looking for a way to connect to the community as a whole and to do a greater good. I want to thank you all for coming to the program today, and I hope you learned a little bit more about transformational learning. Thank you.